welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens. I'm the author of the young adult fantasy Firian Rising, and this is English Nerd. So as you know, I'm in the middle of a series all about A Tale of Two Cities. The assumption is that you've read at least up to this chapter by the time you check out this video. Yeah, I'm going to talk about some summary and a lot of analysis and fun observations from being a huge fan of this book for many, many years. So it's meant to be helpful no matter whether you're a student, teacher, or just a fan. Today we're looking at Book 2, Chapter 9, The Gorgon's Head, where we get a lot of bombshells dropped of information. So let's dive in. Make sure that you've watched the previous episode of this series, since it talks all about the Marquis St. Evremonde and his general monstrousness. So chapter 9 picks up. We know that Charles Darnay is going to meet this person, even though the Marquis is a monstrous individual. And from what we know about Charles Darnay, he's a decent guy. You know, he has dumb moments, like when he talked to Dr. Manette about the Tower of London. He has noble moments, like when he was at the trial and comported himself really well. And so we're really not sure what to expect the first time around when we read this section. So we learn, like 2 pages into this chapter, how the Marquis and Charles Darnay know each other. The Marquis is Darnay's uncle. So Darnay is the nephew. Later in the chapter, we see that the Marquis was twins with Darnay's father. So there's another example of those doubles, that motif of doubles that I've been talking about. We have Jerry and Jerry Jr. We have Carton and Darnay, who look the same. We have the Marquis St. Evremonde and his brother, Darnay's father, who were twins, who looked the same. So there's just another good example. We can see that the Marquis is kind of paranoid because of what the Mender of Roads said in the previous chapter about the tall guy hanging on underneath the carriage. He seems kind of uneasy, so he opens the blinds, but nothing really comes of it right away. So Darnay arrives, and it says as he's coming that he had been known in England as Charles Darnay. So we know that that's not actually his real name. People are mysteries, am I right? And he is the nephew of this terrible person, and he's said to inherit it all as well, including the title of the Marquis St. Evremonde. Charles Darnay would be the next one if he accepted it. But he is not going to accept that. In fact, the reason that he's come back to France is to renounce all of his inheritance and cut off any ties with his evil family there in France, and really to officially start over in England. But before that happens, we get an interesting discussion between the uncle and Darnay. The Marquis St. Evremonde here reminds me a little bit of Scar from The Lion King. He has this kind of elegance about him as he's being super, super evil. I don't know that he's like quite as cool as Scar, but he has a few kind of cool moments as he's being terrible. So Darnay mentions that Darnay says this: I believe that if you are not in disgrace with the court, so the Marquis is not really in favor with the Monseigneur, and had not been overshadowed by that cloud for years past, a letter would have sent me to some fortress indefinitely. So if your power were not slightly lessened from what it used to be, I bet you would just throw me in jail, throw me in the Bastille to rot. It is possible, said the uncle with great calmness, for the honor of the family. I could even resolve to incommode you to that extent. Pray excuse me. For the honor of the family, they have this interesting conversation about the honor of the family. So according to the Marquis St. Evremonde, honor is making sure that you are the wealthy, that you have the most wealth, that you have the most power, and that the people below you feel that they are oppressed. Because just right after that, almost, the uncle says, Well, I hope that our name is more detested than any name in France. Detestation of the high is the involuntary homage of the low. So if we are hated and recognized for all the power that we hold over others, then that is the honor of the family. According to Charles Darnay, that is not at all what the honor of the family means. He even uses the same language. He says, "Sir," said the nephew, "we have done wrong, and we are reaping the fruits of wrong." So he starts off with this really strong moral stand against his uncle. "We have done wrong?" repeated the Marquis with an inquiring smile, and delicately pointing first to his nephew and then to himself. "Our family," Darnay says, "our honorable family, whose honor is of so much account to both of us in such different ways." So according to Darnay, and it becomes clearer, in some of the other things that he says, but according to Darnay, the honor of the family, the Evremonde family, comes not from having the most wealth and power and control over others, but instead it comes from having integrity, actually being honorable, worthy of honor. And the two of them just do not see eye to eye there at all. They both want the honor of the family to be upheld, but they literally cannot have both views happen at the same time. They're utterly at odds. So just a couple more things about this chapter. It's going to be a shorter video, I think. But Darnay says he feels that he's bound to a system that is frightful to him, responsible for it, but powerless in it, seeking to execute the last request of his dear mother's lips and obey the last look of his dear mother's eyes, which implored him to have mercy and to redress, and tortured by seeking assistance and power in vain. So Darnay feels like he's bound to this evil, corrupt system, and he wants to change it. We hear that his mother also wanted to change the system, that she wanted him to show mercy, to make some of these things right. So she was a decent woman, but his father was just like the Marquis St. Evremonde. So they argue for a bit back and forth until finally Darnay says very plainly, "This property in France are lost to me," said the nephew sadly. "I renounce them." So he gives them up. I really admire Darnay for doing this. He's set to inherit a ton of money and power and prestige, and he gives it all up on moral grounds, which I think is super admirable. He gives it all up. Now the Marquis says, "Oh, you're going to start a new life in England? Is there a girl involved?" And Darnay is kind of dodgy, but of course there's Lucy. He's hoping that he'll be able to marry Lucy. This, by the way, explains why Darnay has been going back and forth secretly between England and France. In England, he doesn't actually use his real name, but that's because he doesn't want to be associated with this evil family back in France. And then the chapter closes with kind of a poetic montage of the whole town going to sleep, and the fountain in the village flowing, the fountain where Gaspard's son was run over. And then at the very end of the chapter, the sort of aerial shot, I guess more than a montage, the aerial shot goes around the chateau, it goes back to the chateau, and it says that there is one stone face too many up at the chateau, which has a bunch of gargoyles, and that face, that extra stone face, is the fixed expression of the Marquis St. Evremonde, who has been stabbed in his bed, so his face is frozen in this expression. And around the hilt of the knife is a note that says, "Drive him fast to his tomb. This from Jacques." Jacques is that code name from before with the people who want revolution, right? So even though he doesn't sign his name, we can tell that this is clearly Gaspard from the clues through the last couple chapters. So this is the stone that starts the avalanche right here. This is the beginning of the revolution, in my opinion, even though the storming of the Bastille won't happen for several years in the story. This is what starts it all. So, if you have any questions, let me know down below. Like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe for more English nerdy goodness, and I will see you very soon.